everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. And at the end of this program, we're going to have a promo with each other. And as we're going through this promo, we will actually, at the end of the next week, play poker, because that's what you're doing when you're doing wrestling. Did y'all see this on NXT, by the way?
Yeah.
What in the world are they thinking?
I don't know. I saw today where they were going to a more than likely going to a PG-14 or TV-14, MA-14, however they say that, but they're going to a more adult rating for their show with the approval of USA.
Well, there we go. I don't know if that's going to help them any, but I guess they can do strip poker. I guess at that point.
I think what they're doing is they're trying to prove a point. They're trying to get the ratings up because they're not beating Triple H's ratings yet.
There you go. Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I think they want to have a more adult language is what they really want.
Yeah. Well, come to my house. You'll get plenty of that, but not on the air.
It's incredible. It's incredible the thought process of saying, "Hey, by the way, our program, if we make it a little more edgier, we'll be able to do well." You would think, hey, AEW is not doing well in the ratings when it comes to that respect. So I don't know why they think they're going to do well. But hey, based on professional wrestling, though, I did some research this week, and Reality of Wrestling, Jack. Have you watched the program?
I am very familiar with it. I haven't watched it in a while, but I do. I know a lot of the folks out there.
Booker T's wrestler organization. I looked at that, 533,000 subscribers on YouTube. I have to say, as far as a wrestling organization, that's pretty good for a wrestling company that's out of Houston, Texas.
And hey, let's remember that AEW's Friday night show only did a little over 500,000. So Booker T's right there.
So he's got as many people subscribed to his channel, and he does have like some of his videos are like 1.3 million. And so that tells you there is wrestling is huge. Ring of Honor, they have a ton of people on YouTube as well. WWE, the number 8. Worldwide, not just United States, worldwide, number 8. So, and a lot of millions. So it tells you where the people are watching WWE. There.
Well, and Reality of Wrestling is also getting a TV deal. They're supposed to be going to Las Vegas to film here pretty soon. And when you're talking about those numbers on YouTube, I think that's one of the main reasons why when people say Ring of Honor's done with, I really don't think there are. They're restructuring. Nothing wrong with that. I think it's pretty smart in this day and time. And I think they're going to do okay. It's going to take a while because you're going to have to establish all new talent, of course. But
restructuring is part of all things. I mean, even here Pro Wrestling Inside and Out in 2022, we're going to be restructuring as well because we look and see what the people are wanting to see. And honestly, when you look at WWE, I mean, that is incredible amount of people that watch their YouTube channel. It's incredible worldwide. Rodney, anything going on in the world of wrestling that we need to talk about?
Yes. Once again, one of my favorite subjects, Tony Khan, compared one of his matches to WrestleMania 18 matches. Again, which shows he's got WWE on the brain. Maybe some brain damage there is apparent. But yeah, once again, he wants to compare something that happened on his show to not his own product, but he wants to promote the competition again. And I think it's stupid.
I understand he got booed. I think Tony Khan got booed when he was going through that. I don't know if that was being shown live or something during the pay-per-view. I'm not for sure, but I did hear that he got booed. You cannot compare their product to The Rock. I mean, let's be honest. CM Punk does not reach the Rock status at any point of time. I'm sorry, he just doesn't. He is the biggest star they have. I mean, I will tell you he is the biggest star they have. Him and Daniel, what's his name again?
Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan.
All right, what's he called there though? Bryan Danielson.
Bryan Danielson, yeah.
Yeah, he's had so many names. I'm telling
By
you.
the way, one of the other quote AEW stars says that people don't tune in for the WWF stars or WWE stars. That was his comment. That's their leading star, that great heel, that great heat getter.
Oh, hey, and
they only tune in to see him.
while we're talking about Tony Khan getting booed, CM Punk got booed during his match.
Did he?
Yes, he did. That was what he was talking about when he made this totally outlandish comment comparing his product to something that they had done at WrestleMania.
It was The Rock and Hulk Hogan when they went in and basically flip-flop roles during the match and changed a lot of stuff on the fly. Still one of the greatest matches I think of all time. Probably absolutely my favorite Hogan match.
Sure.
And but no, you're not. That's not what happened. And I'm sure now I've heard nothing but great things from their pay-per-view this weekend. Yeah, everybody's talking about how great it was. I'd love to be able to see the whole thing, but I'm cheap, so I probably won't. But stop. You're right. Stop comparing anything you're doing with WWE. Just stop.
Yeah, because there's no comparison to The Rock and Hogan. There's no comparison for CM Punk, and I think it was Eddie Kingston. I did watch the first match, MJF and Darby Allin,
and probably after that match,
down again,
and probably after that match, everybody tuned out. They seen what they wanted to see, and because nobody tunes in for WWE stars. That's what this guy said.
Here was the problem. I don't know if y'all saw the match. The match was up and down, and they did all kinds of stuff. Pile drived them on the whole thing was in, and so he uses a gimmick to beat them at the end. It made no sense why MJF would have to use a gimmick to beat Darby Allin. He's so much smaller than MJF, and it makes the product just look horrible. And then that match was so good, I didn't see how anybody could actually follow that. So, but the fans were into it. I watched a bunch of it. The fans were into it, and I guess that's all that matters in the end. The fans were into what they were seeing. Now, if they're sitting there with their, I wish something would happen, like they do when they watch WWE. That show gets worse and worse each week. Monday Night Raw ratings was decent until that third hour. And Roddy, didn't you say that the third hour is dropping every week?
I did not say that. I said that last week's dropped because we overexposed Seth Rollins to the point nobody wanted to see him again for a 30-minute match. It was a great 30-minute match, but they pushed him down our throats. He come out with that long-winded interview again. The man's totally overexposed. He needs to be off TV for a while. I mean, he's totally overexposed, and that's what, in my opinion, they overexposed him to the point where nobody wanted to see him. And they here we go. Seth Rollins out at the end. It's like, oh, it's him again. We're going to turn it off and move somewhere else.
Let me ask you this, Rodney. Do you have anything prepared for your segment? Or was it Tony Khan?
No, Tony Khan is never the point of my segment because I talk about people that mean something. And tonight, not just a guy that's a groupie for the WWE and an insult to all promoters, but I'm going to talk about a real promoter tonight. One that, as I've been talking about last couple of weeks on mine, how wrestling used to be a weekly thing in some markets. And in this particular one, I believe it was maybe every other week. Possibly it might have been once a week at one point, but I'm talking about the great promoter, Paul Boesch. He was a legendary promoter in Houston, Texas. In fact, probably the greatest promoter Houston, Texas has ever seen or ever will see. He started wrestling in 1932. And of course, World War II comes up and it interrupts his wrestling career. He returns from World War II. And of course, by the way, his career in the military was stellar. He was decorated many times. And we need to talk about that one night. He was just decorated to the many awards. But he returns to wrestling after the war, and this is in 1947, up until 1947. He returns for the war, and then in 1947, his career in wrestling ends. He was wrestling all over the United States, and he had a car accident, ended his career in 1947. He then moved into promoting, and he went to work for the promoter of Houston at the time, Morris Siegel in Houston, Texas. He worked with Morris until he passed away. Morris Siegel passed away in 1966. And this is where Paul Boesch stepped in to become the promoter in Houston, Texas. Just a tremendous dedication to Houston, Texas. And of course, I think he also promoted Beaumont, Texas as well. Of course, Paul buys out the family of Morris Siegel and then becomes the promoter, as I said. Then he works with every promotion on the planet. He never has an established crew, never has it really an established where he brings in his own talent. He always used other people's, and he brought in the who's who of wrestling, from Billy Graham to Andre the Giant. Actually had a match, world heavyweight champion Harley Race defended against Andre the Giant, Sam Houston Coliseum. Just tremendously dedicated, and he worked with World Class. He worked with Southwest. He worked with Mid-South. Worked with Jim Crockett Promotions. He came to Atlanta. I don't know if anybody has ever seen it, but he was actually a guest commentator with Gordon Soley on Georgia Championship Wrestling. One of the most respected promoters and probably one of the most successful promoters in professional wrestling. And I'm talking about, again, Paul Boesch. Paul passed away in 1989. Of course, right before that, a couple of years before, he made a deal with the WWF. Of course, they were the last man standing, if you will, in that area. And of course, that whole deal fell apart in about 4 months. Just WWF type of wrestling with what Paul Boesch had been promoting for years was not going to work. Not in 1989 for sure, or 1987. But again, salute to Paul Boesch. Again, one of the great promoters. I'm talking about if you're talking about one of the great promoters of wrestling, we've talked about Nick Lewis, we talked about Jerry Jarrett, Roy Welch, Jim Crockett. Paul Boesch has to be right up there with them. And that is my report for this evening. And he is not. And guess what, Tony Khan? You don't not even anywhere close in the class of Paul Boesch.
And by the way, Paul Boesch, on his house, when you'd walk into his house, he had a sign that said, "The house that wrestling built." And that was on his
totally dedicated to Houston. This is a man that promoted Houston. He went everywhere, anywhere. If he was in Florida, he was there to promote. I'm the promoter of Houston, Texas, and I'm there also to bring talent from Florida to Houston. And he did. I mean, with Billy Graham, he brought the Spoiler. And a lot of those matches you can see today from the Sam Houston Coliseum, and that. Going to the Sam Houston Coliseum is like stepping back in time for sure. That's an awesome place. Great atmosphere. One of the great buildings. Of course, it was tore down.
He did consistently book Gino Hernandez and gave him his really first big breaks. And, we've all talked about this before. Gino probably would have been one of the biggest stars in the world, but without Paul building him to that point where everybody else saw his talent, he never would have been a name at all, I don't believe.
Also, Bruce Pritchard wouldn't be around if it was.
Yep. That's correct.
Dr. Tom Pritchard would not be around if it was not for Paul Boesch. Paul Boesch, tremendous promoter, and was a very nice man. Now, I don't know about Pete. What was his partner's name?
That was his son-in-law. I think is what they said his name, but we don't
talk
about his name.
Pete.
It was some straight. I had it down, but he's not worth mentioning anyway. Paul was one that could do he was like Nick Goulas. He could do the interview if he needed to for anybody. He could talk up the show. He was always in promoting mode wherever he was at, whatever he was doing. Even when he was calling his own match, he was always talking about building the match up continually to promote those matches. He was a great promoter.
Let me ask y'all this question, and now I forget what the question I was going to ask you about Paul Boesch, but there for a while. What was the company? What was the Southwest Championship Wrestling?
Yes.
Which was
Joe Blanchard.
Was that Blanchard?
Joe Blanchard.
They were taking care of the shows for a while, right before I believe Mid South Wrestling took over that. But they had put some people on that main event, and Ricky Morton was one of those people that was on the main event. Ricky Morton, Ken Lucas against the grapplers, the masked grapplers, and really and truly, Paul Boesch did not think that was going to be worth anything. And he watched the match and he said, "Man, that was a tremendous match." Also, I think Ricky Morton worked against Harley Race there as well for the World Heavyweight Championship. So, and I think he had shown that Ricky Morton can do and make a lot of money. All right, Jack, now you've got a story as well, and we will turn it over to you.
I'm going to talk tonight about one of the probably forgotten lady wrestlers in our past, and she really shouldn't have been. Gladys Gillum Wall was born on January 6, 1920, and was known professionally as Gladys Gillum. She was born in Birmingham, Alabama, to Fred and Clara Gillum. In high school, Gillum won the Alabama State Softball Championship with her team. After her father died when she was 19, Gillum took care of her mother, who was an invalid. Gillum was inspired to begin a career as a professional wrestler after seeing Mildred Burke wrestle. She was trained in Tennessee with Wilma Gordon, and she began wrestling in carnival shows. Besides wrestling men and women, Gillum wrestled bears and alligators as part of her act. Gillum eventually found work touring with promoter Billy Wolf's troupe of women wrestlers in 1942. Wolf was also Mildred Burke's husband at the time. She was often an opponent of Burke's, wrestling her for the Women's World Championship. She acted in this capacity until her retirement in 1962. During one professional wrestling match, one of Gillum's eyes was knocked out of the socket. And that's just one of the injuries that gained her a reputation as one of the toughest wrestlers, not men or women, wrestler of her era. Unfortunately, she never learned to fall properly, and the back of her head was said to be as soft as a cauliflower. Her bouts with Burke were often ferocious, and on one occasion, wrestling for the world title, she bit deep into Burke's thigh, refusing to let go until Burke broke her nose. Although women could earn up to $100 a night wrestling, Wolf kept most of it, deducting not only 50%, but also expenses and overhead, so that Gillum and the other girls ended up sometimes with just $3 a night. Years after her retirement, she admitted to sleeping with Wolf to secure a pay raise. After nearly 20 years in the ring, she decided to become a lion tamer. "I pity the lions," said Mildred Burke. She also tried to become an equestrian, but at 5'2", she had difficulty in leaping on the horses, so she took to the trapeze instead. Her career as a lion tamer ended in Central America when the promoter absconded with the takings, like a lot of wrestling promoters we know. She met her husband while working for the Bailey Brothers Circus. The couple had 3 children together. Later, her and her husband, John Aloysius Wall, opened a tourist attraction in Florida where she wrestled alligators. The secret, she said, was to tickle their stomachs, something alligators apparently loved. After Wall, who also worked as a stagehand, was killed in a Broadway theater accident, she once again took to the road with her alligators. She finally retired after injuring her back in Calgary. Always a good cook, she bought a rundown motel in Pensacola, Florida, naming it the Birmingham Motel, which she advertised as welcoming lovers. A room cost $10 for 2 hours. And on one occasion, she chased down the street after a customer who had made off with the sheets. Gillum gained notoriety in her later years when she was one of the focal interviewees for Lipstick and Dynamite, Piss and Vinegar, the First Ladies of Wrestling, a documentary about the early days of women's wrestling in North America. Gillum underwent heart bypass surgery in 2003. On August 12, 2009, she died of complications from Alzheimer's disease at her home in Pensacola, Florida. She is survived by her 3 children and a number of grandchildren, one of whom, Sean McCoy, named his rock band Kill 'em Gillum in her honor.
That was a great story.
That was awesome.
You know, and the thing about it, the wrestling alligators. You know, Dad told us a story one time, and I can't remember the name of the guy. Do you remember, Rodney, the name of the guy that had to have the alligator?
No, but I remember the story. Go ahead.
He said he was over there and he was refereeing this match, and he said the guy came to him and went, "Man, I hate to say this, but it was freezing. It was freezing outside." And he told Dad, he said, "Listen, I believe the alligator's dead." He said, "I'm for sure, but I believe it's dead." He said, "What am I going to do?" He said, Dad, he told Dad, he said, "But it'll be all right. It'll work out just fine." He said he rocked that thing out to the deal. He grabbed a hold of it by the tail. He shook it around. He moved around inside that ring with that thing dead. And he'd get on top of it and he'd move it back. He finally beat it and put it back into the and it dead the whole time.
I bet you the name of the alligator was Bernie.
I had a girlfriend like that one.
I was looking at something today, and I want to get y'all's take on this. It was put out by Bleachers Report. I don't know if y'all have ever went to Bleachers Report or not, but it was put out by them. And then basically they said the 25 worst wrestling promotions ever. Now, this was done in 2011, so there may be some that's even worse now. Okay. But number 25, they had down World Championship Wrestling. Do you think that was a horrible wrestling organization?
I think the last 2 years were probably the worst of any wrestling promotion ever. And it wasn't the talent's fault. But if you only going to judge them by their last 2 years, I don't think that's fair because they were fantastic at one time.
Yeah, Rodney, what do you think?
Yeah, no, it's not the worst. We've seen some worse ones. That was not the worst.
You know, this was the interesting part in this, and I thought this was interesting because this is what they said. They said the RoboCop. They made it a bad thing, but what they don't understand, it's been done 25,000 times in wrestling. It was, they paid WCW to do the thing, and we know that Vince Russo's booking was pretty bad, but I don't know that Arachne Man was a horrible thing. That was just they almost got sued by Spider-Man. The next wrestling company they talked about was the Global Wrestling Federation. Do y'all agree with that? Global Wrestling Federation?
I can see that. I think they had a lot of potential. I just don't think it was ever realized.
Wasn't that on daily on ESPN?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Like at 4:00 every day on ESPN. The problem with that wrestling was nothing ever happened in it. Was it just me, or was it just match, no storyline, no building up to nothing? It was just, but they had a good production now. Well,
yes. I mean,
Rodney, what do you think about Global Wrestling Federation?
It's I agree with Jack. It didn't meet its potential. It had a lot of potential. Honestly, though, the everyday wrestling was. They just couldn't do it. They didn't have enough talent to do it. I talked about that last week with running a weekly town. You need to be able to rotate talent quite often, and they needed a tremendous amount of talent on there for sure.
All right, the next one, TNA. Was it that bad?
Again, I've seen worse. No, I don't. I mean, I never really watched it in any dedicated way. I mean, I was just kind of just happened. Oh, there it is, and I waited about like I do with most wrestling 5 minutes, and then I moved on to something else. But as far as it being worse, production was pretty decent. I thought talent was okay. just again, you have that people who've come out on the scene trying to copy Vince McMahon, and it just can't be done. You just cannot do it. It's just
Jack?
a losing proposition. Go ahead.
I honestly, some parts of TNA were not very good, but on the other hand, there was some stuff that was very, very innovative. They made some big stars came out of there. Samoa Joe, so many others. I don't. I would not say they were the worst by any stretch of the imagination. Did they need better management? Yeah, they did. But
this thing does say, why did someone give Vince Russo, a job after what he did with WCW?
Yeah, that was their worst period. It really was.
Okay, what was this? I don't know if y'all did. Fish Market Street Fight.
I have no idea what that is.
Jack, you remember seeing this?
I didn't see it, but I remember hearing about it.
What's a reverse battle royal?
You fight on the outside and throw people into the ring.
Yes.
Okay. That had to be a Vince Russo idea.
Yeah, of course.
That had to be that. All right. IWA Mid-South, Iron Rotten in Louisville, Kentucky. I never seen this.
This was hardcore wrestling for the most part. For the audience that is into that, this was, I thought, a very good promotion. It's not my cup of tea. I know a lot of the wrestlers there. They went up. They did everything they could, to have great matches for that genre. So I will never fault any of those guys for doing what they love, or for fans who love that kind of wrestling. I don't think it was a bad promotion at all. Now, general wrestling fans like me, it's not something I'd watch.
Rodney, do you remember this organization?
No.
There was a wrestling, let's see, the next one is the New Wrestling Evolution. Evidently, this was had Mr. Anderson in it, Heydrich, Scott Steiner. It was the NWE Tour Europe and was seen on TV in Britain. Ultimate Warrior was the star of the show.
Oh, well, no. Well, I mean.
Well, there you go.
How could that not be a success?
He was 49 years old during this time, and it was in 2008, and he main event against Orlando Jordan. I don't remember that, but
if we haven't heard of him, it's probably a good reason.
Generation Superstars of Wrestling. It was the tour of Australia. Road Warriors was on this. Tatanka, Barbarian.
Is that the one Jeff Jarrett put together?
You know what? It doesn't say that. They said Ted DiBiase Sr. provided commentary, which was a great decision. Kurt Hennig main event at the first and only pay-per-view Superstars of Wrestling.
I can't. I believe this was the one Jeff was either put together or he helped book. He was something to do with the office there. And I have seen some of the tapes from there, and it was just, there was absolutely no direction to it whatsoever. It was just throwing matches out there. There were no stories, and it died a quick death.
Rodney, did you ever see this?
No.
World Wrestling All-Stars. It said, how did a promotion that had a roster like AJ Styles, Sting, and Eddie Guerrero fold only after 2 years? Randy Savage was booked to battle Jeff Jarrett's WWE heavyweight title, but Brian Christopher ended up there instead of Randy Savage. Bret Hart was a part of this as well. Y'all remember this? Because I don't remember.
I don't remember that one.
No.
So that's probably the reason. Triple X Wrestling.
Oh, well,
Triple
I've
X.
never heard of it, but now it's piqued my curiosity.
The British promotion is for adults only.
I guess so.
Sure be a waste of a name if it wasn't.
They said the product was a snoozer. Is what this person said. Well, here's one that
the acting was good, I'm sure.
Here's one that we can or cannot. Wow, they have that down. This was the 2000 version of WoW. It comes back in 2022, I think, right?
Yes.
I didn't think it was that bad. I've watched videos, though. I didn't think it was that bad. I didn't think it was as bad as Glow.
No, I thought it was
We're
pretty
talking
good.
about the women of wrestling, or we're talking about World Organization Wrestling?
No, this is WOW. It's the Women of Wrestling. They call it a campy all-female wrestling federation founded by the man behind Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling.
Well, that version of it was a little campy. I can see that. What they have wound up becoming, though, is a solid promotion. I don't know. I enjoyed watching it. I thought it was pretty good.
I have seen it. I thought it was pretty decent as well. Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. I mean, we've talked about that. We won't have to go into detail about that. JD Star. It was a promotion in Japan. Do y'all remember that? Actually, AJ Kong was in this.
AJ Kong?
Well, it says AJ Kong on this thing. So
AJ Kong. Let me think about it. No, I don't know him.
Another wrestling company from Japan, Hustle.
I did hear of Hustle. I never saw anything, so I can't form an opinion there.
Women's Extreme Wrestling. I don't ever remember any of this.
Yeah, we're going downhill quick here.
Hey, some of their events was nude booty kick.
Okay. There we
Locker
go.
Room Lust and the Battle of the Hose.
Well, now I remember why I didn't watch the show.
I wouldn't have found it anyway. He wouldn't have played on TV here. I just tell you right now, not in this market. Surely.
There was a guy that won the lottery many years ago, and he started a wrestling company with Jimmy Hart, and it was called WrestleLicious. Did y'all ever see any of this?
Saw a little bit of it, yeah.
I can see why that didn't make it as well. That was
certainly.
Boesch, wasn't it? Rod, did you see WrestleLicious?
There was nothing licious about it.
No, I don't recall WrestleLicious. No, I do remember a show that Jimmy Hart was, I believe, was out of Florida though. It was some kind of another federation of some kind.
Now I have heard Jimmy Cornette talk about this on one of his podcasts. With Dramatic Dream Team, the Japanese promotion Dramatic Dream Team is a parody of the most over-the-top elements of wrestling. The DDT Ironman Heavy Metalweight Championship is a play on the OW Hardcore Championship, where the champ must defend against anyone at any time. Former champions included a monkey. I cannot make this up. A ladder and a poster. Matches seen wrestlers battle up dolls. Gimmick matches included campsite. No wonder. Oh, I wonder why this didn't make it. Y'all ever hear this?
No. No.
Thankfully, not familiar with this.
There's another one called Incredibly Strange Wrestling. A poor man's imitation of Lucha Libre. What it says. That's what it says on here. I've never heard of some of these. Doomsday Wrestling.
That plays every week. You can pick any hour you want, and it's Doomsday.
This was out of Houston, Texas, I believe.
Well, you can't do anything after Paul Boesch. There's no doubt.
The National Wrestling Federation's Kids Pro Wrestling. I didn't know this.
National Wrestling Federation, but no, what Kids Pro Wrestling? I didn't know about it.
They had it in the 80s. A group of teenagers began a wrestling show out of their basement, and evidently got on television.
It's funny, and they're writing now for the WWE.
I'm going to say those kids have grown up and have their own promotions here in the South now.
Juggalo Championship Wrestling.
There you go, Juggalos.
That's the
insane clown posse. Yep.
Did y'all watch any of theirs? I did see Tracy Smothers on one of them.
I saw
the greatest
bits
moment.
and pieces. That is a total. You got to be a fan of their music to enjoy that product.
They said that Rock and Roll Express had went there. We need to talk to Ricky Morton and see how fun that was. Micro Wrestling Federation. I don't know that was a bad. I've seen it. Have y'all seen that?
I thought it was decent. They're still running, as a matter of fact. I believe that's the one that's They're in Gatlinburg.
Yeah, I believe it is.
Yeah.
So extreme midget wrestling. I can't even believe they called it that. Naked Women's Wrestling League. Karma Electra acted as the spokesperson.
Send me a link. I don't want the link. I'm just kidding.
By the way, they said that though the name implies all nudity, some of the matches included women with clothes on. So
how false advertising that is.
Yeah, I never knew that existed. Naked Women's Wrestling. Extreme Pro Wrestling. This was aging porn stars that had wrestling matches. And Gypsy Joe against New Jack, evidently. They had a match with them on there, and they called that the Lowlights. That ain't where he got beat up, is it?
I don't think so. That was just a show up in Tennessee.
They said this company was run by a porn producer. And the last one, Combat Zone Wrestling. Don't know that I ever remember seeing that as well. No wonder these didn't make it because no one has ever heard of them.
Some of those don't belong on the list. I'll just tell you right now. They're not legitimate. Those are just adult film play on wrestling kind of thing. Anyway.
This was a report done by Bleacher's Report, I think, in 2011. And since that time, has there been wrestling companies that are the worst companies in wrestling since 2011? Because that was done in 2011. When you look hey, don't get all quiet on us now. Here's the thing about wrestling. That was just WCW was not as bad as people want to make it. They'll say the Black Scorpion was a horrible thing. If you listen to people talk, they'll say the Black Scorpion was, but it did do ratings. It had one of the biggest ratings that ever had on television, up to the point that the NWO came to the area. But it did very well, and the RoboCop was just done as a publicity stunt because RoboCop, I guess Turner and them had something to do with that movie.
Yeah, the New Line Cinema.
And I think it's great. If you want to compare it to The Miz getting eaten by zombies, I'll take RoboCop every time.
Or not have a wrestling match, just play poker the very next week.
There you go.
That's hey, that makes perfect sense on a wrestling program.
Well, as we know, poker is now a sport. Did you not know this?
No, I did not. On
know. ESPN's poker is played. Yes, it's a sport now.
Well, next week we're just going to play poker right here as we're just going to play poker, and since that's what WWE thinks that's good television. I understand Vince McMahon was not at the TV tapings Monday, and Bruce Pritchard wasn't there. I heard John Laurinaitis ran the whole show, but Vince was there for like a 22-hour meeting to go over that 3-hour show. Probably changing everything. That's the reason that show comes over as scrambled eggs. He changes things so drastically. I mean, let him,
you think that he would do that on Tuesday, or do they do it on Tuesday and then he changes it by the time the show plays on the next Monday?
I think he does.
Wow.
Somebody asked me the other day, do they think Vince McMahon's losing it? I say Vince McMahon never had it. I don't think Vince McMahon was the deciding factor in anything that he's done. I believe when he decided to run the world, Jim Barnett was the guy that led that. I don't believe Vince McMahon did. I think Jim Barnett led that. He's the one that had all the contacts. Vince didn't have them. Jim Barnett did. And someone who doesn't get the credit is Howard Finkel. Because Howard Finkel made the telephone call to us in Continental, and he wanted to know what was going on. And he was the one that knew when Birmingham was ran. He knew when those towns was run. Not Vince McMahon. Howard Finkel knew that stuff. And he was the one that gave Vince McMahon that information. So I don't think at the beginning of this, there was Linda McMahon, Vince McMahon, Jim Barnett and Howard Finkel. That was the only people in the office.
Well, let's not forget Pat Patterson also.
Yeah. But at the beginning, George Scott was there.
Yeah.
Because I think George Scott was there from Vince McMahon Sr. So, but look at the people he built during that point in time. Ricky Steamboat, Randy Savage, Roddy Piper, Bob Orton. Those are the people that he built to get there. Then Pat Patterson comes in after him. Yeah. But I think Pat Patterson, even Terry Garvin, even though he was a sicko, he kind of had the thought process of how to put matches together. I don't know that Vince McMahon ever had it, because you think about it, once Pat Patterson is gone, the company kind of starts no direction. I mean, what do y'all think?
That's exactly what was running through my mind, is that the overall quality of the product itself has gone steadily downhill ever since Pat Patterson left.
Yeah.
I think Pat was a genius in what he did, and so underappreciated.
And I think Gorilla Monsoon.
Yep.
And Chief Jay Strongbow and those guys, they were able to go, no, Vince, that ain't the way we're going to do it. They had the ability to do that to Vince. Where these people now, they just, Vince says, well, we're going to throw a turd and we're going to hit the guy in the head. And
it's that's funny. That was just on Raw last night. Bobby Lashley was throwing that turd all over that ring. It was a pleasure to watch.
Everybody in that office owns stock in Chapstick because they use it a lot.
It's kind of sad when you look at wrestling. Me and Rodney was talking about this today. It's always rehashing something that they've already done 20 times. And it's not that you want, people will look at us and they'll go, oh, you just want wrestling to go back to the territory days. No, that's not what we want. What we want is a product that makes sense, that tells a story from the first time that you see, let's say, CM Punk, and you got him for 3 years, you've signed him for 3 years, and a long storyline to get him to that 3 years. And to know, you should know exactly what you're going to do with CM Punk 3 years from now. You should know exactly how he's either going to leave or he's going to be built up in that 3 years. But you don't need to keep nobody longer than 7. After 7 years, you've lost. It's just anything. You look at television programs, you look at 7 years is about all they've ever been able to stay on. There's been a couple of exceptions to that rule, Gunsmoke and a couple other ones. What's the Simpsons? But it's a little different. You got cartoon characters. You can do a lot with them. But we don't. I don't think any of us want wrestling to go backwards. We want it to go forwards. And there's got to be a new vision out there to give the people something a little different, but be able to keep your way the wrestling business was, because it's all about getting the people emotionally involved with someone, whether they hate them or whether they love them, or sometimes when they're just in between. People didn't just completely hate Ole Anderson. They'd like to see him. And people wanted to see him wrestle because they knew it was going to be good. Yep. Now, they would boo him, but you could always say, boy, I like that Ole Anderson. That's what they say. Oh, I like that Ole. That match going to be good because he was exceptional when he did what he did. And I think that's the thing. There's a place to go forward. Terry Funk always said there's always a place to go forward. And the wrestling has stayed right here, and it's not went forward. It's stayed in the same spot with the same formula for so long. There needs to be a new formula presented. Yep. And that was it. And I'm not saying that wrestling's not doing decent numbers, because when you check everybody else's numbers, they're doing great numbers. But what could they do? What could they do if things would just changed a little bit? What do you think, Rodney?
Oh, absolutely. But and I'm okay with moving forward, but you've got to have a foundation, and it's got to be built, and a true knowledge of the basics, so that you can move forward. I think, and I think they have compared the production of today compared to then. The production is far superior than anything we've ever seen in the wrestling business. In fact, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful production. You can't take that away from them for sure. The announcing leaves something to be desired. But still the basic premise of you've got to have characters that people, like we were saying, get involved with. And you certainly can't have them. You can't tune in a program. I'll just give an example. Batman is the hero this week, and next week he's the villain. It just doesn't work. You've got to have people that they are pulling for. They've got to have people that they're there to support. And then at the same time, you have to have people that they are against. Ole he knew his role, and the fans knew his role.
Yep.
Okay, absolutely, and accepting him the role, no doubt about it. And so, and of course, it's one of my favorites of all time. You never knew what Ole was up to. It was always something, and that was the key, and that really was the key to Ole.
Jack, what do you think?
Let's just shoot them all and start all over from scratch.
Oh boy.
This is the one thing that I don't know that I understand, and maybe somebody can explain it to me. If you want to leave a comment, that's fine. Leave a comment. I don't understand. If you knew you were going to put Adam Page as the world heavyweight champion of AEW, why would you have not let Daniel Bryanson or Bryan Danielson, whatever the crap his name is, why would you allow him to win? So now you've set up for two baby faces to wrestle each other at their next big event. Now you've took and just cut your fan base where now they don't know who to yell for you. They don't know who. So now you take the fun away and the people leave.
And that goes back to understanding the basics of wrestling.
This was said by Cody Rhodes here not long ago, that he didn't believe that there were such things as heels or babies anymore. And I think it shows that there's not fan support when you take that away.
Yeah.
I mean, not overall.
Really, when has he been involved that there ever was? Seriously, when has Cody been involved when there was a clear line between? There hasn't been. Not as long as he's been in the ring. Maybe he saw it beforehand. But that was, if he did, it was right at the very end. So the only thing he's ever known and been participating in is the Shades of Grey, which is, to me, just absurd. Absolutely absurd.
Well, you're not going to. You have to have a star. There's got to be a star.
Yes.
And they have to develop a star. WWE's got to do the same thing. There's got to be one star.
Let's look at the biggest star WWE ever created overall was The Rock. And they did. They created him from the ground up. They built him. They made him what he was in professional wrestling. Now he's taken that and parlayed that into a great movie career. But if we go see a movie and The Rock is the star, then we know that he's either going to be the good guy or the bad guy. But he's not going to be that good guy that's bad or that bad guy that's good. There's not that in between. Now, he just had the new movie Red Notice that came out this past weekend. And the storyline changes from where he's a good guy to where he's a likable bad guy. That's the story hook towards the end. Sorry, spoiler alert, a little late for that, but still, you understand. You're cheering for him the whole time, and that's what we're missing in wrestling. There's nobody set to cheer for anymore, and not everybody, but a lot of them are afraid to be booed because they want that merchandise sales. They want to get over on the internet. They want those fans, smart fans, to be popping for them all over Twitter. All that ridiculousness. I think MJF crosses the line sometimes with the way he gets heat, but he is not afraid to be a heel. And if we had everybody in that locker room not afraid to be an actual heel like him, business would be better.
Yeah, because even though he does go too far, like calling his mama. I won't even say what he called his mama and his dad.
And Victor, I'll just tell you, and that is a problem.
What did Victor say?
He's saying MJF loves to be booed. That is a problem. That is a problem. because if you really want the people to get on you bad, it's to boo him should upset him. No, it shouldn't. He shouldn't be loving it. He should be say, "What?" It should be, because then they would do it more if they knew it was bothering him. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like Bobby Heenan being called the Weasel. If he said, "Oh, I love this," people would stop. Am I right?
The only thing I see about MJF, if I got right now, and let's say for instance, we've got Jeff Van Camp. By the way, hello, Jeff Van Camp, Lord Humongous, from the only one I think did a good job at being Lord Humongous. But if I said, you know what, I saw a picture the other day on your Facebook, and your mom was fat, I'm probably going to make you mad, right?
That's right. It's cheap.
But that's cheap heat. Anybody can.
I can do that.
But now, if I get in the ring and I pull your hair a little bit, I choke you a little bit, I put my finger up in your nose, I rip your eye. Well, now I've made you mad because of what I did, not what I said. Mm-hmm. Anybody can get out and say your mom is fat, or you didn't brush your teeth. Anybody can do that. Anybody can do that. It's cheap heat. So it sometimes you got to be very careful that MJF doesn't go too far, and it's turnoff heat. See, Jimmy Hart was never turnoff heat. Jimmy Hart could actually go to a place and people will be packed up behind you, because I could have got out there and done the same thing and said some bad things about Lex Luger. And all those fans are smart. They know what's going on. That's in the thing. I mean, they're traveling from all over the place to come to these matches. It's not the people locally. I think they got all these people that come into these matches. So they're all a bunch of smart fans. So they knew the score. But did the people that was watching, this casual fan, really even know what they were talking about? I mean, they were going, what? They do too much inside things that nobody even knows nothing about.
Yeah, and Kevin Owens, I don't know if y'all saw this last night. Last week, he turned heel. And last night, he did, I think, one of the best heel interviews that I have heard in a long time, because he was very calm, he was very direct, and he put everything at the feet of Big E. You kept saying I couldn't be trusted. You're the one who said I was lying. Everything that I'm doing now is your fault. It's not my fault. It's your fault. Yeah. You know who else is at fault? It's you fans for believing Big E. He was a heel, and this is something, that we all learned from our very beginning. An effective heel has to be justified in the way he feels.
Yeah.
It's to just be a bad guy, just for the sake of being a bad guy, that is hard to do. But if you can justify that character and why you are the way you are, that's where real heat comes from. And that doesn't come from calling somebody's mama a name or anything like that. That's cheap heat. Real heat is what Kevin Owens was doing last night. Hey, I cheat now, but it's not my fault, it's yours. I got tired of y'all. I'm sick of the way y'all treated me. Now you're going to pay for it. Every time I beat up one of these good guys, it's your fault. It's not mine, it's your fault. That was brilliant.
And it's all about the opponent. It's about winning a match, how you're going to win a match, and why you win a match. Well, you cheated. Well, I don't know if I cheated or not, but I won the match. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And you move on. And that's the only thing I see about MJF that he does. There is a limit to going too far. And if you go way too far, you got to be very careful that there's going to be some type, when he says the things he said about his mother, even though they know that it's part of a show, is there going to be sponsors that say, wait a minute, that's going a little too far.
I disagree. Absolutely. What comes up is people ignore him. You know what I'm saying? It's not, he's not involved with anything, with anybody. So it's just cheap. And so people, instead of say, well, this guy's great, they ignore the very fact he's on the show.
But by the way, he is a great wrestler. He is a great wrestler. I watched his match. Great. But how can you go from having that first match that they had at AEW? How can you follow that?
Well, let me ask this question. This great match. Was there psychology used?
Well, there was no psychology.
But did he beg off at any time? Did he beg off at any time in the match?
Oh no, I don't think he did. No.
Okay, well then.
Well, he did
it.
Again.
He needs to learn his psychology then.
Jack, did you see this match? What was the point of bringing the what's that rolling the little thing? What's the point of bringing that in?
Somebody just had an idea. Hey, look, there's that laying over there. Why don't we incorporate this?
Mm-hmm. I mean, did it make any sense? I mean, I didn't get that.
Somebody's been watching the news. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say.
That's exactly what it comes from. That's why it was you.
It made no sense to me, and I did not understand that portion.
Somebody was sitting in the back saying, "Oh, this was the greatest moment that we're going to. This is going to be the greatest moment for television."
But here's the thing. See,
let's pat ourselves on the back.
Here was the problem. Bam, bam, move, bam, bam, move. That's what beat him. A gimmick beat him. Now that thing on the side on the ring didn't do it, but that little gimmick that he had beat him. Just dope.
Well, Dad always said that as well. They would do all this other stuff and then hit him with a roll up at the end.
Just made no sense.
Anticlimactic.
The people are with it. That's good, and I'm glad they have a fan base. And there's a fans for everything. I mean, hey, Street Championship Wrestling had fan base. Hello to Jason Mundy. Hello to you. Brian Young said on Tuesday makes me happy. By the way, folks. What was I going to say? Now I don't remember what I was going to say. I was going to talk about Brian Young. Good Christmas gift. The Wrestler's Wrestler. You see it behind Jack over there. The Wrestler's Wrestler, available on Amazon. Get over there and get that. I mean, you can go over there and, everybody likes the Pro Wrestling Inside Out. You can buy a t-shirt at Pro Wrestling Tees/Pro Wrestling Inside Out, or you can support our channel, whichever one you want to do. But if you don't want to do any of those, get the Wrestlers book. You'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy that. Michael Barr said, hello, Michael Barr. Hello. Man, I'm having a problem. Chad Marsh also with us. Also, Jeff Van Camp, the original. I don't know if he was the original. I think there was another Lord of Humongous before Jeff Van Camp, but
he's the only one that matters.
The only one that matters did that tremendously.
Yeah.
Just tremendous when he got to because I don't think he did the thing where he raised up in Southeastern. I think we come up with that in Mid-South while he was there. But just tremendous stuff. Glenn Allen Shelton, hello. Wendy Harkins is with us. Wendy's Bomber Jack Lord back there. She made that for him. By the way, happy birthday to Lola.
Thanks. I'll let her know.
Happy birthday. I noticed it was her birthday today, so happy birthday to her. Chaplain Freddie Rooster Roper. Hello, folks. Some beautiful photographs, paintings that he's doing. I just seen one the other day. It was tremendous. And I asked Freddie, does he sell these? I know I asked him at one time, but I'm getting old and I can't remember if he told me he did or not. Freddie, let us know if you're still with us. Let us know if you're still there. Richie Dye is with us. How you doing, Richie? I hope you're doing good. Charles Bellflower, number 71, Frizz Von Erich. Oh, by the way, that is right. I had forgot about that. That was our next thing we were supposed to talk about, wasn't it? Number 71 on my list, the Masked Assassin, Jody Hamilton. Now, I believe either on Jack's or Rodney's list, Jody Hamilton has already been there. Was it yours, Jack, or was Rodney's?
Honestly, I don't remember. I know he's on my list. I don't remember if he's come through yet or not.
Rodney, was he already on your list?
No, he was not.
Jody Hamilton, well, maybe they wasn't on any.
He's been on others' list. That's been on here for sure.
But number 71, Jody Hamilton, the Masked Assassin. He knew what he was doing. He knew how to control a wrestling crowd. He knew what he was doing. Psychology. He did not have to.
Let's just be honest. The insults to the fans, that he would do, talking about their mothers, grandmothers, future children. That's what made him a superstar. Let's just be honest.
If you've never had the opportunity, if you're a wrestler,
take that, I say.
If you're a wrestler,
you are a hack. You
If
need
you
to
are
be off television, working back in the flea markets where you came from, because that's
hey,
about as
hey,
good
hey,
as
hey,
it was.
wait just a second. What in the world, man?
Well, you don't want you take. Was that an insult to flea markets? Okay, then back in his backyard.
The crap flea market thing.
Wait a minute, I got a backyard.
Okay, then. Excuse me.
But 71 Mask Assassin, if you're an aspiring wrestler,
This
you
is-
want to watch the way he does things and the
Exactly.
way that he
A
presents.
lot of credibility when he speaks. A lot of credit, a lot of authority, and just tremendous professionalism. A star, a true star, if there ever been one. Jody Hamilton.
All right, number 71 was Mask Assassin. Rodney.
My number 71 is Owen Hart. Owen Hart, great of the Hart family. He was gone. Of course, again, another one that lost way before his time. Just a tremendous wrestler. I believe that he was just beginning to find himself. But honestly, he was tremendous before that, before all of the mask and the whole thing. But yeah, Owen Hart, tremendous wrestler, and what great things we could have seen, I think.
And you know something, he never was given the push that he deserved really in WWF. He was so good, but he was always in the shadow of Brett.
Mm-hmm.
But man, what a great performer. You know, if they would have probably called him anything else but Owen Hart.
Yes,
I don't know that people, do
agree.
you think people would even knew that was his brother?
They would have been known from where he was in Calgary for sure. But as far as you're right, as far as stepping out of that shadow, he would have been better off of being just the Blue Blazer from the day one for sure.
Jack, Owen Hart.
Owen Hart was great. Again, I agree. The guy, the potential for WWE was never even utilized. I don't think in any way. I thought the Blue Blazer thing was an insult, really, to how great he was.
Yeah, he didn't need that. All they needed to do is make sure that they gave him some great angles to do, and a program with someone that he had great matches with, because he had great matches with everybody. And if you've not seen the Bret Hart Owen Hart match, man, you're missing something. And I believe that might have been a SummerSlam. I'm not for sure. Maybe it could have been WrestleMania, but I believe it was a SummerSlam. A tremendous match with each other. They gave you a wrestling lesson of what it takes with wrestling. All right, Jack. Number 71 on your list.
Number 71 for me is Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig.
Yes. Hey, was that was on Rodney's list, wasn't it?
Let me see.
Excuse me.
Kurt Hennig.
Not the dial.
No, he was not.
Oh, right.
He was a gimmick infringer. I don't appreciate that.
Maybe I'm going into the future.
He was a gimmick,
maybe or maybe not.
He was gimmick infringement. The only Mr. Perfect is the real one, Jerry Steph.
But now he asked permission and was given permission to use the Mr. Perfect name.
Yes, he was, and Jerry Stubbs gave him the permission to do that. And I think they were in Japan or something when he gave him permission to do that. So, Kurt Hennig, tremendous. You know, we talked about this. Somebody, maybe one of the insiders said Kurt Hennig, but we said that if he wouldn't have done all them goofy bumps that he did, because he did some things that this was, that bump you'd take off the turnbuckle and fall on his head. That had to be. And by the way, this gut wrench, would it be a gut wrench suplex? Would that be what they call when they grab the guy from the back and ram his head into the mat? I don't even know what they call that crap right now. But they need to quit doing that. They're going to break somebody's neck because they never fall on their shoulders. They always fall on their head. It's just that they don't know how to do this move.
I don't know. Even if you do it right, it's still a dangerous move.
Yeah. Do they do it too quick? Is it the snap portion of this is this done too quickly, and it's going to hurt a ton of people if they continue doing it? I'd outlaw that move. You know, somebody I think last week asked about moves that need to be outlawed. I think that move needs to be outlawed. They won't let you do a pile driver, but they'll let you do 22 of those.
I was still wrestling when that became a thing, and I had a lot of guys try to do it to me, and I would never go for it. I would just
I mean,
set
what is
it
this
out.
thing called? Is it a gut rich suplex?
No,
What-
it's a
Belly
German
to back.
suplex.
Yeah. Okay. I know what you're talking about now. Yeah. The belly to belly type thing.
yeah, they pick them up and bring them back. And it's always awkward. And I think to myself, they're going to break somebody's neck doing this. I would not let them do that. That would be the move that I would say, no, you're not doing it. I'd rather have a pile
Well,
driver.
we used to, we called it was a belly to back, and but we used to stretch it out, and you used to have that release if there was a good bit of distance between the guys, so that you were basically just taking a regular bump, both of you.
Yeah.
But now the way they do the German suplex is right on the back of your head, neck, shoulders. It's the very way that you're not supposed to take bumps is the way they're taking.
Yeah, it's just, and it's gonna take your career and make it very small because you're gonna break your neck. It's just there's no other way around that. Charles Bellflower says number 71, Fritz von Erich.
Yes.
I don't know that I ever saw Fritz von Erich wrestle. Maybe on video.
He's part of the Chicago library. It's on there, Fritz von Erich, and it's very different than what you see him in Texas for sure.
Hey, I will tell you though, I did see the one that he went against King Kong Bundy, and he really beat the crap out of poor old King Kong Bundy in that match. Did you ever see this? I mean, he kicked him, and he kicked him so hard his foot got kind of stuck into King Kong Bundy's stomach. I mean, that's how hard he kicked him. And I'm thinking, man, poor old King Kong Bundy. And he couldn't say nothing about it. He said, well, that was pretty good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We laid them in there, and he probably told him, now, Fritz, just lay those in there tonight. I can take it. Go ahead. So I like to, he said, Fritz told him, he said, I work snug. He said, oh, I can take it. Just put them in there. Just put them in there. He said, well, okay.
Anybody that ever said that, they mostly came back in the dressing room and said, maybe tomorrow night, let's don't do that.
Have to be a little easier tomorrow.
It'll be a little easier tomorrow night. My question this week, I know Jack's answer, but if you could run a promotion anywhere, be it NWA, AWA, WF, where would it be, and what wrestler, past or present, would you build it around? Jack?
I wouldn't build it around anybody, past or present. I would build somebody that I find out there that has potential to be built. I would build my entire company from the ground up.
And that's the way it should be.
Exactly.
I believe that you've got to have stars. I think to me, you have to have stars. And the way the territories was built years ago is you would have, most of the time, you would have 8 baby faces, 8 heels. That's the way it was. Sometimes 7 and 7. And 3 of those or 4 of those, if you had 8, you had 4 and 4 on each side. You had 4 heels, 4 baby faces that you would surround your territory around. A lot of times, the 4 baby faces would stay, the 4 heels would leave. There'd be a new 4 heels. Sometimes it went the opposite way, but the always was 8. Grade 8, basically, is what you would call them, and that's how territories would book for many years, and it worked for years. But they wanted Wrestling 2 to get over. They wanted Tommy Rich to get over. They wanted Dusty Rhodes, and they knew who they wanted to get over. So it would just, you would find the person that you think you could build your company around. There is a lot of great wrestlers today. To really bring out 1 or 2, I'm not for sure I could do that because there's so many. Rodney?
Absolutely. If I was going to pick, I'd pick it right here in Chattanooga, Nashville, Knoxville, and Atlanta, Birmingham, because it's just right here. And I've seen those I've seen those towns do well, and I think there'd be a huge following. And I'm with everybody else. I'm not going to use anybody from now or then. I think we need to start from day one, and you're not relying on those other people because you just don't want to do it. You just don't want to do it. You want to give, because then if you're going to have such great morale with everybody pushing to do the best they can do, and they're just come in, oh well, we can't do any good. We're not going to be able to be pushed here. They've got all their money into CM Punk, so we're not going to do any good as long as he's here. We're not going to do any good as long as Danielson here. So if you start from scratch, like Jack's talking about, everybody's on the equal footing, and then the best will eventually, as we say, the cream will rise. To the top. So,
and crap goes downhill. That's there right there. Mickey Mayfield said, I hate Hallie Insiders. I really miss Monday night show. We'll eventually bring Monday night show back. Just right now, we've got Christmas coming up. We got, and we will be leaving for a while for Christmas vacation. So we won't be doing some shows for a couple of weeks. So just all that going on. Probably by the springtime, we will try to come back to the Monday show. Victor Nash, hello everyone. How you doing, Victor? Kevin Penley asked another question. My question for Jack is: if you repackage Dominic Mysterio, how would you do it? To me, he seems like the modern day George Coulis.
I honestly think George was better. I don't think there's any amount of repackaging you can do to that guy. He and the thing is, I want him to succeed. I really do. A third generation wrestler, you want him to do well. But I don't see an upside to him. Not yet. He's been training. He trained for 4 or 5 years before he ever came to WWE. They had him up there with Lance Storm training, and apparently during this whole time he knew he had a deal, so he just had no incentive to ever get in shape. And that kills me to see a guy that's just there. He's just a body. He can do a few moves, but he's just going through the motions. I would repackage him as a release. Is what I would repackage him as.
When you were getting ready, people, you might want to start with him instead of Harry Smith. So,
send him to Mexico. Make somebody down there, get him in the gym, get him away from TV, bring him back in a year or two when he's in shape, and then do something with it.
Yeah, because Rey Mysterio was always in shape.
Yep.
He may have been small, but he was always in shape.
Yep.
Brian Young said his number 71 is the Golden Greek. John Tolis, a tremendous wrestler, by the way. If you've not seen it, there's a couple of videos on YouTube. I have watched some of them. Tremendous. And all week, the rest of the week, I will be able to watch some videos. So I will watch some of it. I'll try not to watch too much modern day wrestling. I get a little mad. So anyway. Victor Nash says, congratulations to the Hangman Adam Page, the new AEW World Champion. Hopefully by now he can quit drinking. Maybe he'll be happy. Drink. Always got a beer in his hand. I don't understand.
Well, he's trying to push everybody else to drink so that they can actually enjoy his match.
I never understood that finish. I didn't get the finish. I did not understand why he stood there, and then finally did his. I mean, I don't. I guess he was waiting for what's his name to get to where they went. And by the way, they said Eddie Kingston and somebody, but there was somebody else. There was somebody else on the card that was not going to be a part of some kind of convention.
Oh, it was Eddie Kingston and their champion.
Malachi Black. Is that who it was?
Omega.
Malachi Black was also out with an injury, but
Omega.
Kenny Omega is out. Also, he's been wrestling with an injury for a while.
Well, the reason they didn't really show up, it was because their injuries are being beat. I think that's maybe the reason they didn't show up. The American Dragon. That's what he should be called, Brian
Danielson. Yeah,
because I mean that this name thing is just people don't know what his name is. I don't think. Why would anyone put Rey Mysterio and his son against a monster 4 times bigger than them? I didn't even understand the MJF and that Darby Allin. Darby Allin's good, but please put him with people that's his size. Quit putting them with people that they could crush them in about 30 seconds. I mean, it makes no sense. It just makes no sense to me.
I personally think, Michael, is Vince is personally sending a message to these people. They have no business in the ring with people who are in shape and are bigger than they are. I think that he is definitely making a point. He's doing the exact same thing on SmackDown with Drew McIntyre. He's putting him against smaller people, and it's just, you just say, okay, you don't belong in the ring with a big guy. You just don't.
Paul Eubanks. Hi, guys. How you doing, Paul? Dennis Mitchell. Rodney, Brett, Jack, any good stories at the wrestling matches involving fights between fans? I'm pretty sure Jack's fought a couple fans. Southeastern Continental. Thank you, Dennis. Jack?
Oh, yeah, I've had a few that jumped the rail. One guy jumped the rail, and his feet never actually made contact with the floor after he jumped the rail. Last I saw him, he was being dragged out by his buddies who were encouraging him to jump the rail.
You know, one time, Dad was bad about kicking people. I mean, he'd see them come through and he couldn't wait, man. He'd do the kick. He'd do that football kick right in their face. I mean, he loved it. And Ole Anderson told him one time, Ronnie, quit kicking those. Well, they called them marks. I try not to ever use that word, but quit kicking the marks. You're gonna end up getting a suit. He said, well, they came in the ring. I kicked them when they came through. He said, I always would do it. He said, so he gets to Columbus, Georgia. And he said, the match is going. He said, it was wrestling 2 and somebody. I can't remember. And he said, man, Stan Hansen. He said, well, they was in there. And he said, this guy went to climb in the ring. He said, the glasses just went right up in there and cut his face. I kicked him as hard as I could. He said, I get back there. He says, man, I'm feeling good about myself. He says, man, I had kicked that guy. And he said, Fred Ward come to me and said, Ronnie, we got a problem. He said, well, what's wrong? He said, we got just a small bit of problem. He said, well, what is? Well, come on out here. You got to see who you kicked. And he said, he walks out there, and he said, and this guy was mentally challenged, and he had just rolled his high in there, and Dad kicked him. Dad felt horrible about kicking that guy. But this was after a week of kicking people all week, so he kicked us. He didn't kick nobody after that, by the way. That was the end of the kicks.
It was a group of them come to the show for TV taping that week, and at the old sports arena in Columbus. Yeah, he had, they all come together in the bus, and so yeah, it
was not good.
And Ole told him, "What did I tell you about kicking him?"
And so he did not kick anyone anymore. If they came through, he would attack them, but he would not do the football kick. Wendy Harkins, don't feel bad, Jack Lord. I didn't watch it either. I'm cheap too. Why pay for it, folks? It's on their YouTube channel. Just go to it. Why pay $50? You can see the highlights.
Are you serious? Oh,
you don't have to.
Oh, wow. Mm-mm.
I mean, I don't understand why you'd put it on there. Jack, Full Gear is on YouTube. Just type it in. So, yeah.
Well, no, actually, I did that, but it's already off.
Maybe somebody took it off.
They will. Usually somebody will put it up the night after it's over with, but then they, as soon as AEW finds it on there, they'll apply a copyright deal.
100,000 buys, by the way, for AEW. $50 a piece. So what is that? How much is that? The $500,000? Is that what it is? Am my math right about that? But 100,000. I
believe it's $5 million is $50.
Yeah, it's $50 a deal. Yes, it is $50 a deal. But 100,000 did 200,000 in the last one with CM coming back. Good evening, guys. So they lost 100,000 people. Good evening, guys. I'm learning more about wrestling. You can teach an old dog. Thank you very much, David. Charles Alford said 1,000 ways to move. I think we're talking about Darby Allin and MJF. Mickey Mayfield. John Walker Jr. posted pictures of Ringsider magazine today on Facebook. Also seeing the Spuller and Wrestler 2 against each other. The sport was very impressive. Yes. Great pictures, by the way. I believe is it John Walker on Facebook? Is that what it says to get to his Facebook? Tremendous photographs on there. And I still want to get on there, and we still need to get Robert back here, but we need to need power. We need
actually it's Robert Walker that posted. It's not John Walker Jr.
I think he actually passed away, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. And Robert, by the way, when I get off here, I'll call you. He called me
Hello.
today, and I was on the road. Actually, I was on the side of the road.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Hello, group from Glenn Shelton. David Bice, my favorite wrestler was Mr. Wrestling 2. Mine as well. The only hero I had in professional wrestling was Wrestling 2. And he always lived up to that. Even when we met him, he was still my hero. And he will always be my hero. I would like to see a wrestling match between Vince Russo and Rodney. I put my money on it.
Listen, bro. Come on, bro. The
WWE is not putting the main event in the third hour, and it'd be the last match leading to the next week. No, they don't do anything to lead into the next week. There's nothing that makes you want to see it the next week. I don't understand why no program does that anymore. I don't. Maybe something we don't understand. AEW Full Gear is the first pay-per-view that you can order on Facebook.
Well,
I did not know that.
Steve
Richards, hello, gentlemen and viewers. 71 on my list, Killer Khan.
Killer Khan.
Always liked Killer Khan. At least he didn't fall asleep like Toro Tanaka did at ringside. So, Paul Eubanks, Paul Boesch is a 5-star promoter, and evidently it was great payoff, man. He must have given great payoff.
I mean, you think about all the great stars. He had the NWA champion there, Harley Race. He had the AWA champion there as well, and Nick Bockwinkel, and had him there not just one time, had there many times. They actually had a match, and I saw it not too terribly long ago with AWA World Championship on the line, Nick Bockwinkel against Dusty Rhodes. And this was while Dusty was, the NWA, was the former NWA champion. And it was, Bockwinkel did a great interview beforehand. Dusty did a great interview, and the match I never did see. But yeah, Paul Boesch brought the who's who to Houston, and really the fans of Houston really, I'm sure, miss Paul Boesch and all the great matches he brought.
Kevin Penley. He said when they done the interference with the Usos and made a tag match out of it and changed the channel, they do that spot weekly. How many times can you do that spot? How many times can you have a match and turn it into a tag match? We used to do that, but somebody didn't show up. So
That's
you
right.
ended up putting in the tag match. But these people are showing up. So I don't understand why they're doing it. They do the same thing. If you watch something the year before and you can turn right back around and watch the show again, it'll just be with different people, the same exact thing. I mean, can they not come up with anything new? They've got writers. They're paying these people tons of money. Maybe they're not. Maybe they only make $300 a week. I don't know. Maybe they're not getting paid money, but maybe go get the people.
That match not only ended up in a tag match, it ended up in a 6-man tag match.
Oh yeah.
Oh, did it? I didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had to look at Seth Rollins again. He was sitting out there doing the interview, and he probably said he turned because of the Usos, but I bet it was because Seth Rollins was out there talking again.
DVR it through all of Kevin. Sure what that meant.
He might have been responding to somebody else.
That could just be Kevin Sullivan. He DVR'd it and froused it up.
That was one of the things that I had to appreciate.
I think he fast-forwarded through all of the Kevin Owens.
Oh, Kevin.
Oh, I got that.
You should go back and watch it. That was good.
Billy D is with us. Can't stand today's wrestling product. There's good things about it, and there's bad things.
Billy, try watching it like I do, because I find that the commentary is childish, immature, and it's just a turn off. Turn the sound off and see what happens. I bet you can sit through it at that point.
And also turn the actual turn it all the way down dark, and you'll just.
Well, why not just turn it off?
I want to see that.
What he's doing.
Say this. I don't usually do replies, but he said I'd cut down Raw to 2 hours and display my more experienced talent. I think that could work for them. I mean, I know they're making money off that extra hour, but it does seem like people.
Yeah, the call for 3 hours was never WWE. That was USA Network.
David Bice says I support all my indie wrestling in the area and do that. That's very important. Plus, most of the time you're going to see actually wrestling. Joel Bateman is with us as well. Joel, how you doing? Glenn Allen Shelton said, by 3-hour WWM, I'm ready to sleep or turn over to watch Gunsmoke. Hey, Matt.
CM Punk saying that they only have diehards watching the show, that the casual fan is gone. I disagree with him completely. I believe it's the casual fan. That's all they have left. I think the diehards left a long time ago, because if the diehards are there, they turn the show on and they will not turn. They will stay with it regardless of whatever happens. They'll stick with it. So your ratings should not be doing the roller coaster ride. It should stay steady. So I believe it's the casual fan that's the only one that's tuning out and coming back and tuning out and coming back.
I will say this. I believe they do. I think the AEW does have a 500,000 base fan base. I do believe they do have that. But the problem is the newer people that do, the casual fans, they don't come back. They just watch it occasionally. And most of the time, even Birmingham, Alabama had casual fans. You had to have the casual fans, but you had to have the population to be able to get them casual fans. But Birmingham had about 5,000. They had about, what would you think, Rodney? Well, it was about 1,500 diehard fans that was there every week. Didn't matter who was on the card. And then you had the rest of them that was a casual fan. So you had to have the casual fan. And it's a very important, but casual fans watch the wrestling and go, what? They're going to play poker? And then they don't turn it back on. It's just,
right. I still believe that's the reason it goes up, and their ratings does not stay steady. It goes up and down because they're all casual fans. They just come in, tune in for a minute, see what's on. They see the Usos come running in, and off to Gunsmoke they go.
Well, there's nothing like watching Matt Dillon. I mean, let's be honest.
Festus made the show. Let's be honest.
Festus did make the show. Come on now, Matt. You know, he never called him the sheriff. That was Matt. Matthew.
They were on a first name basis, Brent.
Well, now Festus was not the original. Wasn't there an original guy that wasn't Festus? That was somebody else prior to him? Yeah. And he left the show, and then this guy took it over. I bet he wished he wouldn't have left that show, because it was on like for 12 years, wasn't
it? Gunsmoke was on for 22 years, I think.
It was one of the longest running shows of all time.
Well, Dallas was on a very long time too. That just the writing was horrible. They
shouldn't have been. Yeah, they should have. After the dream sequence, it should have been over.
Yeah, Gillum was so sweet. I met her at the Gulf Coast reunion. Mae Young told great stories of Gillum and her toughness. Brian Bodie Green. I love the old stories of them. I mean, they had to be tough. Jack Briscoe beat Harley Race for the NWA title at the Sam Houston Coliseum.
Yeah, sure did.
Charles at Bellflower. How long was Global aired? Was it about a year?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't that great.
It's just to do that kind of show, you're going to have a tremendous amount of talent, and they just simply didn't. They didn't have it.
My number 71 was Coco Ware when he was in Memphis before WWF. I don't think they ever used Coco good in WWF to me. I don't think he was over as well.
It seems like he gave everybody the bird.
You know, Bobby Eaton told me that his favorite tag team partner of all time was Coco Beware. But he learned so much from him.
Yeah, you watch Coco and Bobby as a team. That was a good team. They were great.
I don't know if he said hello to Rick Brooks. Rick Brooks is with us. Richard Hood. Guys, I thought they had something there with Global.
It started off with a potential, but by the time we watched it for about the third, I think it was into the third week, it just went right down the tubes.
Way back there was a UCW. Unified Championship Wrestling. Y'all remember that?
No.
I don't remember either. Richard Hood said Austin Idol number 71. Jack, I believe, he had Austin Idol in the 90s, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I know Rodney didn't have Austin.
Let me see.
The Universal Heartthrob, baby.
Let me see again.
I thought Austin was good. And really,
no. I had Billy Graham. I had Billy Graham down, so there was no need to have Austin Idol. Like the superstar Billy Graham.
Well, then you shouldn't have Dusty. I mean, let's be honest.
Who says I have Dusty on my list?
Oh, that's true. He may or may not.
He may or may not.
Vince Russo is a hack, in my opinion. That's Joe Bateman said.
And
Joe
that
Bateman.
was the nice things he could say about him.
Now, Joe Bateman put Brian Adidas at number 70.
It was decent. He was a good wrestler.
I probably wouldn't have him on my list, but Brian Adidas was pretty good. The only problem was he only wrestled there, didn't he, in Texas? Did he ever go anywhere else? I mean, I'm not for sure.
I want to say he made a few trips, but he wanted to stay in Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, he was in the shadow of the Von Erichs for sure.
I think he could have been huge everywhere else, but but there it just wasn't going to happen. But I think you took him to Georgia, or you took him to Mid-South, but he was that close.
He would have been great for Continental for sure.
Yeah. Brian Young said XXX wrestling. I mean XXX wrestling. 71, Adrian Adonis.
Wow.
Now, is it an adorable Adrian Adonis? Is that the one Michael Barr liked? They couldn't get Adrian Street.
Surely not. No, it was not adorable. If he would have been, he meant for it to be adorable, he would have put it on there. He was obviously talking about Adrian Adonis.
I have to give though, he did that gimmick really good. He did that adorable gimmick. He did do it good. Sean Smith, Glow is coming back. No, I am friends with that woman that owns it now. I guess she owns it.
That woman.
There's no talking about that now. I don't know. I think they got canceled on Netflix, right?
Yeah, I think it was just a 3-season run to begin with.
So. He said, no Glow bashing. I am the Glow defender. Well, then I'm going to tell you what, Brian, you wouldn't want to be in our car on the way to the towns or the way back after we watched that show back in those days, because there was some bad things said. Now, I'm going to tell you that Glow wrestlers did come to Birmingham. They were at the Boutwell Auditorium, part of the Continental Show. And that Dave McClain came up and talked to us. And he talked exactly the way that he talked on his television program. Hello there, Dave McClain here. I hope you're doing good. So, you have to talk to him back. Yes, I am doing so good there, Dave. You had to give it back to him because he did. It was like he was playing his character or something on there. GLOW, he gave a heart. He loved it. We didn't love it back in the day. Because you were trying to make a living in wrestling business, and we felt like that was not good for the wrestling business. Glenn Allen Shelton, IWCCW for a little while, comboed with ICW and World Class Championship Wrestling. I think I remember that. I try to forget it maybe, but I think I remember that. Let's see. Michael Barr. Ultimate CAW Championship Wrestling was out of Orlando. UCCW. Y'all remember that? I don't remember that one. But there have been a lot of wrestling companies in the years. Sean Smith, ICW, not to confuse with Pafos ICW. Pafos show wasn't that good. I can see why they did go. Richard Hood said Micro Championship Wrestling, I think, was for the little people. I think that's the one that's in Pigeon Forge, right?
I believe so.
They do very well there, by the way. Think Micro advertised in Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Said here, Tony Atlas was an ICW. Now that was the Savoldis.
Savoldis, yeah. That was a pretty decent show. Production was left something to be desired, but was a decent as far as talent goes. Is that the one they had Curly Mo or Curly something? Isn't that what it was?
Yeah.
He was terrible, but I like watching.
Dennis Mitchell, New Jack versus Gypsy Joe was bad when Joe got beat up. But, I still believe, and we've talked about this before, I still believe Gypsy Joe knew exactly what was going on. Because he's been beat up like that before. So I don't think it was any kind of he liked to get beat up for some reason. I don't know why, but he did. Don't y'all think that was all part? And maybe New Jack went a little far on the things he did, but he probably told him, lay it in there, buddy. Now, he might have went in the dressing room and said, maybe next time we wrestle, don't lay it in as much. Maybe, because guys have done that. Jack, have you ever told somebody, man, lay it in, make it good, and then you went back to the dressing room and said, maybe we don't do that tomorrow night?
I've never said that, but I've had it said to me.
Well, the next night, did they go, by the way, let's don't do that tonight?
Exactly what they said.
MLW is a good promotion. I've heard it was pretty good.
Yeah, I like it.
ECW was worse than WCW. They had some good matches. Wasn't that where we seen Dean Malenko first?
Dean
At least that's where I seen him.
Sandman. ECW was a very different format, television format for sure. It was innovative. They were not trying to copy anybody. They were a definite standout. There were some shows that you only had 2 matches. There were only 3 matches, and they just when they called it extreme, it was. They took it to the.
And honestly, I thought they did a better job with storytelling than WCW did at that time.
Yeah. And they got their people over.
And let's just be honest, anytime you have one of your wrestlers raise their top up, that's class.
It didn't go over in the South.
No,
they had their tour through Alabama, which was a big bust.
Sean Smith, After I think he's saying After magazines used to do stories on Apartment Wrestling 70, and every front of them, you almost have to now try to get rid of that because it's on everything. Everything. I guess it sold even back then. It sold magazines, I guess. So, what can you say? Who is the man and woman in the backstage? Who is the man and woman in the backstage promoters of the WWE that set the matches?
Adam Pearce and
Cruella DeVille. Yes.
Yeah, I can't
Sonya
think of her name.
DeVille.
Sonya Deville. Yeah. Sonya Deville wrestles there. My understanding is she's fixing to come back. Adam Pearce, very accomplished independent wrestler. He was the NWA World Champion for a while. He's great talent.
Victor Nash said high stakes poker. Good evening, everyone. For Michael Rollerson. Get that name right. Glenn Allen Shelton said you need 5 people to play poker. No, not in our way we do things. No, we can change things. We're the WWE. We can make a rule where you get through over the top rope and get disqualified one week and get through over the top rope the next week and nothing happens.
I honestly don't even know how to play poker, but I can flip a table with the best of them.
Joel Bateman, the WCW finger point of doom. And they wonder why they stopped drawing and WWF beat them. Stuff like that. Sean Smith, Barnett didn't stay long. In WWF, he was there for a couple of years. Actually, he was there from about 83 until 89. I think that he went when Ted Turner called and said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to buy wrestling," and he thought, "Okay, I'll come back there," because he's seen a good payoff from Ted Turner. One thing Barnett was, he knew where the money was, so he got paid pretty good for many years. And I think he did eventually go back, didn't he? Did Barnett go back after WCW?
He was all. You're talking about the WWE after.
Because wasn't he a guy that they called on the telephone?
He was a consultant.
Yeah.
I would watch the show, and then he would do consulting, and he'd send it to him, and they'd send him a check.
Yeah.
So I'd like to get that job.
Hey, where can you get that job? Where you sign up for that job at? I'll do that job. I agree. Pat and Gorilla left. It started going downhill. I truly believe that. I just believe that they're the ones that had the vision. You're right, Brent. And the company sure has no direction now. I saw the was this a turd? Oh, turd. Sorry. I started something, didn't I? Being thrown last night may have been more than one. Oh, see what I started? Vinnie Mac is a great delegator. Ole is bitter. Ole has always been bitter. That was just Ole. He was that way in the 70s, so he was never going to change. Seems like it changes every 10 years. Joel Bateman, we want quality professional wrestling, very good wrestling and good promos, excellent stories. Yes, it's very important to tell a story. I think people want to see a story told. They want to see something happen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then be answer 6, 7, 8, and it just makes sense. I don't know why that's hard. The man with the best Flair impression is all Jay Lethal. Yeah, if you've not seen this, have you ever seen this? Jay Lethal being Ric Flair, tremendous stuff. Yeah. He sounded more like Ric Flair than Ric Flair did. Have you seen this, Rodney?
Oh no, I've not seen.
You've got to see this. Tremendous.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's good stuff.
The way they do it is tremendous.
And it's going to be great when what's his face there comes out and done his Vince McMahon impression. That'll be great.
Oh, Tony Khan?
Yes.
Yeah, it's coming. He's
or what's his name? I chose the right name. What's his name? Because he wants to be Vince McMahon.
High spots have replaced scientific wrestling. Way too many high spots. Just way too many of them. And that's the reason their careers are not going to last long. They do stupid stuff. The WWF could put their weight class wrestlers with the right weight opponents.
They could do that.
I've said it before. WWE has gotten way too predictable. I agree with that. Paul Hatchett is with us. How you doing, Paul? All right, let me. I'm trying to get away from the replies to people to reply for each other. So went from program to last week's to Flash and Bang with not listening with experience. Not for sure what that meant. Maybe it's just the way I read it. The internet killed the brawls. You know what? The actual casual wrestling fan is not. They're not on the internet watching anything about wrestling. The diehard is, but the casual fan they could not tell you anything. They couldn't tell you if a wrestler had passed away. You would talk to them today, and they'd say, "Well, I used to watch wrestling. I watched wrestling too. I was in Columbus, Georgia, every week for 3 years." And man, whatever happened to wrestling?
When Meltzer first came out back in the 80s, it wasn't fans that were buying that newsletter. It was people inside the business, and it was those inside the business talking about Dave Meltzer that got fans to actually reading what was going on out there.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is just very simply, if people would just quit talking about what's going on inside, it's a work. Hey, here's a news flash. It's a work. You don't need to know anything else. Star Wars is a work. Don't tell me what's happening behind the scenes.
Don't want to know it. I don't want to know how David Copperfield is doing his magic. Because it takes away the fun of the magic if I know how he's doing it. I don't want to know. Today, there's no heat with the fans in wrestling. There's no doubt about that. Who is Adam Page? A lot of people probably say that. Yes, the production is far better today, but maybe too much. Like a big budget movie with too much CGI with poor writing and character development. Greg, you've said a lot right there.
I'm going to be honest. I've always liked WWE's production. The new camera angle thing is killing me. Multiple moving. But when they do those CGI graphics when people are coming out, that kind of freaks me out. I'm not into that.
Kevin Dunn they need to move Kevin Dunn out. He's been there way too long, and he's stuck in a rut. He's stuck in a rut, and they got to get rid of him. But they never get rid of him because evidently his father saved Vince McMahon from peril damage.
Well, maybe if a sale ever comes through, he and Vince Russo can sit in a room and talk to each other all day, and then we won't have to hear from them again.
Agreed, Rodney. There has to be heels and faces. Sean Smith. They have to figure out a way to make the fans honestly love and hate again. Yes. Hulk Hogan made bad movies. Yes, Joe. Yes. Yeah.
But he made movies.
By the way, if you've not seen the Jungle Cruise with The Rock,
it's awesome. I love it.
Awesome movie, tremendous movie. So if you've not seen it, you need to go watch it.
Who's in that one? Who's in that?
The Rock. Who else is in that movie?
I don't watch anything.
Emily Blunt.
I watch everything that she's in. She's great.
A great movie.
Rock, he's not.
Good storyline. Tells a great story. Love it. Cruella is also another one. If you've not seen it, tremendous movie as well.
Is The Rock in that one?
That's blurred a thing for Baby to Heal. Yes, they have. MJF loves to be booed. Let's see. MJF to WWE.
I don't know.
I don't think that's going to happen. Michael said it's going to be like a soap opera following like it used to be. And that's how wrestling was. You'd go from week to week and it kept on telling a story. It kept progressing into the story. If you'll notice today, there's no progression to nothing. It'll be almost, they do it, and the very next week they'll do the same exact thing. There's no progression from week to week anymore. It just makes no sense to me. Kevin Penley, by the way, Rodney, I'm like you on Michael Cole. Pat McAfee is just as bad.
Yeah.
Who is this Pat McAfee?
He is the sports guy. He has a podcast and he handles all the,
He looks great in a tank top, I must say.
He actually he wrestled last year at NXT and wrestled Adam Cole, and surprisingly they had a heck of a match.
MJF said he watched Lawler promos. He didn't watch Lawler promos. Those were interviews back then, but we'll go ahead. They'll be fine.
He watched them. Watching them and learning from them are two different things. The real key, if he wants to watch a perfectly done interview, is check out the Lawler interview when he comes to Georgia and he's going to wrestle against Roddy Piper. Perfectly done, absolutely perfectly done. And it's not. Let's talk about his family. He's talking about all these other people. He talks about Piper and talk about he being the big deal. And listen to the response of the people.
Yeah.
It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect.
Michael Barr asked Jeff a question when he was asked to do Humongous. I don't remember him doing Humongous till this is 1983. If he did it before then, I don't know. But maybe he will answer you, Michael. But if not, I'll find out when he first did it. I'll ask him. Just like Shotzi, who's Shotzi?
Shotzi Blackheart. Well, she's just Shotzi now, but she turned on Sasha Banks on SmackDown and had a very convincing interview as to why she went to the dark side. She was justified.
Richard Hood said, Jack, I agree. It should be a reason for the heel turn. And it shouldn't always be money either. That's not a good turn. It's never a turn. That never. AEW is on turn or anything goes. Kevin Penley, I miss Gordon Soley, Les Thatcher, and Charlie Platt on commentary back then. You didn't need 3 or 4 guys to get wrestlers over. I don't think they need that now. That's just overkill.
It's confusing to me. It's just too many voices in there.
Yeah.
The Rock was a great phase in heel. Oh, by the way, we need to pray for Jim Ross. He has cancer. I think skin cancer, and I think he's going to go through some treatment. So let's all pray for him. And Jim Ross always nice to us. Never was rude to us.
I caught the headline, but I didn't read the story that he may be off commentary once the treatment starts, according to how he reacts to it.
Yeah, we wish the best for him. He was always nice. He was never, when he could be, he was always nice to us. When he could have been a butthole to us, but he wasn't. He was always nice. Do you agree that as a heel wrestler that he or she distances themselves from the fans? I certainly don't think you can go out there and sign autographs. I don't, but today they don't run the towns all the time, so it'd be a little different. Nice bomber wear. Jack,
Not available at ProWrestlingTees.com, by the way, but inside the Pro Wrestling Inside shirts are.
Yep. That's true. I miss Jody Hamilton. Yes, he was tremendous wrestler. The Assassins was a great heel. Jody Hamilton had it down pat. Michael, he did. Sean, if you got stabbed leaving the ring, going back to the restroom in the 70s, 80s, you were a heat seeker. Yes, and a lot of people got stabbed back in those days. Michael Barr said something about the blue blazer. Terry Lustergraf. Good evening, Britt, Rodney, and Jack. Sean Smith said on past after Brett left the WCW, Blazer was a Russo ideal, I believe. I think
he was a blue blazer when he first came to the WWF way back when, and I think Pat Patterson was still there when he came in as blue blazer. They put him back into the blue blazer at the end. It seems like.
Yeah, I think they did. They put the gimmick back on.
Came in as the blue blazer, and then this.
Joe Bateman, Brett, and Owen Hart, both on my list. Kurt Hennig, greatest of all time. Rodney, you have offended my dogs, the fleas, and my backyard.
Well, I'm sorry about that. I feel sorry about unsealing the dogs, but the rest of them, I don't care.
Glenn Allen said all three should have seen it and carried World WWE. Victor Nash, Kitty Omega, Snapdragon Suplex is the worst. The moves they do.
You can take the Snapdragon Suplex out, and that statement's still true.
Glenn Allen said getting like football now. I'm not for sure what that means, but Power Bomb got Droz. But you know that was just most of the time that move can be done very without hurting somebody. Now, if you try to do it fast, yeah, you're going to hurt somebody. They need to slow down before they kill somebody. I mean, that's going to be the next thing. They're going to kill somebody in that ring if they keep on doing some of the stuff they're doing. King Kong Bundy lost his hair in that match. Oh, did he lose his hair in that match with Fritz Von Erich? I didn't realize this.
I remember him having hair. At one time, but it just looked like it was so much better when he shaved it off. You have to admit. Give him that really.
It did. It gave him more of a thing. I loved King Kong Bundy. I thought he was tremendous. And eventually he goes and works with, I think it was Apple. And even a wrestler can run this computer. Yeah. I don't know if that was good. Randy Orton is about to get a bait of his student. A bite, maybe? I'm not for sure what that means. Michael Barr. Who can the WWF that will ever be able to face Omos? Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, I think that's right. The guy is huge. They've protected him for a long time. I've heard he's pretty decent, but let's remember that every giant guy that they've ever had, they've screwed it up. His time is just coming to do a job for Rey Mysterio.
That's correct. You're so right. You are so right. Yeah.
Nothing against Rey.
I hope they don't do that. But I don't know. They did it to what's the big guy, right? The giant.
Big Show.
Yeah. Steiner's son has a bright future. I've done right. I agree with that. Joel Bateman, the AWA, The Rock, the Road Warriors, Bobby Heenan, Bobby Eaton, Stan Lane, Kurt Hennig, Randy Savage, Paul Orndorff. I guess he was talking about the people that
he would bring in his organization for his own organization.
And all great wrestlers, by the way. Every one of them tremendous. Rick Brooks said Owen posed for a picture in Sonograph for me at the Cincinnati Gardens in '96, I believe. Glenn Allen says, I think Greg Gagne was better than Dom.
Greg was great. He was a good wrestler. He was a great wrestler.
Up until the camouflage.
True.
Dominic is worse than David Flair.
No, I won't put Dominic in that. But he's another one that's overexposed. He's been pushed down our throats, and eventually, I believe the crowd will turn on him because it's getting
Well,
where it's
supposedly
so obvious.
they're supposed to turn him against his dad.
Yeah, that's whoever come up with that. I would put them in the unemployment line so they can go join our friends at AEW.
How about Charlie Cook? Charlie Cook was a tremendous wrestler.
Yes,
Yes, he was.
But whatever you do, don't let him bring wrestling to Tuscaloosa at the Rec Center, because he'll leave and leave you not owing you nothing. He not give you no money whatsoever, and you're thinking, I'm glad I brought money to pay everybody tonight, because he just left. It was a ball show. Whatever we got, whatever the gate was, I can't remember how much it was, but whatever it was is what we got. The new gimmick drinking page Storm. I hope he's. Now that he got the world championship, I hope he doesn't drink anymore. I hope he's happy now. My number's 71. Making me feel.
Well, you had to have a celebration drink. Come
this
on
is
now.
True. Omega, Shoulder, and Vertigo, supposedly.
Yeah, supposedly he's been dealing with vertigo since 2018, which would explain why I've not liked his matches.
Will they tag Page with Moxley when he returns? Possibly. Yes, possibly he will. Glenn Allen Shelton, the fair game. You cross barricade, you're done. Give him warning at shows. Yes, you're told that. Yeah, back then it was said if you cross the barrier. Yeah, that's
do so at your own risk.
Yes. Michael Barr, I have seen Ronnie West attack a few in Dothan, Alabama. Yes. Yes. He didn't mind. He didn't mind getting a fan or two.
He could pick them. He could pick them out.
He also didn't mind inciting homeless women from assaulting me.
Y'all remember Doug Smith? He kicked a few also. Yes, he did. Yes,
he did.
Randy Ward, by the way. Rick Brooks, he brought Mark Lewin in as well, right?
Well, everybody makes their mistakes. Okay, and we're talking about Paul Boesch. Everybody has their mistakes. But the one thing that I couldn't find is a Kevin Sullivan match from Houston. And that makes it okay.
In NXT, USA flirting with going TV 14. We talked about that. Texas Hold'em on NXT right now. Yes, I don't get that. Rampage ratings tank every week. Dynamite aren't much better. It's not about the wrestlers, it's about what you do with them. It has nothing, and it has never been about who you have on the card. It's what you do with them that matters. He has the Midnight Rider on. He has the Midnight Rider on the list. Somebody has Midnight Rider.
Let me check my list.
Richard had said that Brian Adidas wrestled in Georgia. That's he did in
That's
Georgia.
Right. That was right before Ole left. I mean, got finished off. However you want to.
Rodney, if you have Dusty on your list, I'm going to place a bounty on you with Kevin Sullivan. The naked wrestling, the naked women wrestler doesn't play strip tease poker. Okay, that's where they probably got that from. He said in the mid-'80s. Wasn't there a wrestling company in Texas in the early '80s? There's been a lot now.
I think you may be thinking about Global
and world class, but they did. I wouldn't consider them a bad wrestling company. There ain't no doubt about that. Charles Bellfeller, how did Fred Ward get away with overturning the decision if Lana was doing the booking? He did it. Ole got mad at him. Ole did not want to go back. He would send Dad and say, "I'm not going back." And I won't say what he called Fred Ward, which really was amazing that Fred Ward, Ole Anderson, and Ralph Reed all become big friends at the end there. If he only knew, what Ole called him all the time. So, maybe he wouldn't have. Maybe that wouldn't.
Ole wouldn't go to Columbus. In fact, I don't recall him ever going back to Columbus after he did it.
Yeah, he got very mad at him, and he would not go back.
No, and the reason that he could do that is because it was his show. He could go on Channel 3 there in Columbus and tell them whatever. And unless you want to expose the business, you had to basically go with whatever he did and had to work with it.
Yes, WCW did have contracts when Ted Turner came along. I think Jim Crockett had them prior to it as well, but I don't know if there was.
And later on, there were certain wrestlers that were contracted actually through TBS or TNT, whatever the parent company was, and not WCW. Because Vince, when he bought out WCW, he was able to absorb those WCW contracts, but he didn't pick up those big, huge money contracts. Like, Goldberg and a few others, they had it straight from the company, so they just sat at home, collected their money.
Eric said, thought for sure that Greg Gagne was going to pop up from underneath the ring during the main event in Minnesota pay-per-view game. I created the concept of pay-per-views. By the way, Baron von Raschke on that show, enjoyed seeing the Baron. That's all you need to know. All right, folks, we thank you so much for being a part of Pro Wrestling Inside Now. We will join you again next week as we talk professional wrestling. What we're going to talk about, we don't know. We wing it, and we just the bell rings, and we figure it out as we are going along. Thank y'all so much.
See, there it is.
And that means it's over. Thank y'all so much. If you'd like to support Pro Wrestling Inside and Out, it's very easy. Just go to our Facebook page, support. I think it says become a supporter. And that is the way we make this possible and to be able to move forward on a lot of plans that we have. And hopefully, with all COVID out of the way, hopefully things can progress in 2022. Thank y'all so much, and we'll see everybody. Rodney, anything you need to say before we leave?
No, I'm finished for now.
He is finished. Jack, anything you'd like to say?
Y'all get ready for Thanksgiving. Send cigars.
And
send turkeys to Vince Russo.
Oh, Sean Smith said we hit the curfew. Remember that? Right. It's not just one fall to curfew.
We have hit the curfew, and it's time for us to leave. Thank y'all so much. We'll see everybody next Tuesday, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time.